Chapter 2, Task 1, Area. For this chapter, you'll be using the formula sheet, and we've actually included exactly what it looks like for the air test. So as you notice to the left, you have area of a triangle, area of a parallelogram, and area of a circle. The A always stands for area. The B stands for base. The H stands for height. And the R stands for radius. The base, if you go back to the B, the base when you're given a shape is always on the bottom. That's how you know which side to choose the base as, always the bottom. The height is always straight up and down. And over here on our note page, I'd like for you to include the pi symbol. It got cut off on our notes. So this guy right here doesn't stand for anything. It just goes into Desmos as PI. Yes, those two letters is exactly what you put in Desmos. When you see the sign, it stands for pi. It's important to remember that a parallelogram also includes other four-sided shapes like squares, rectangles, and rhombuses. And just as a reminder, the perimeter of a shape is the distance around, and all you'd have to do is add up all the sides. So let's do some examples. Number one, what is the perimeter of and area of this rectangle? Well, for perimeter, just like we showed you in the notes above, it's the distance around. So all you have to do is add up all the sides. Well, as you see, we're only given the lengths of two sides, but what we know about rectangles is that the side right across from it is congruent. So if the top is 9.7, the bottom's 9.7. If the side is 4.5, the other side is 4.5. So I would recommend you actually writing that in. So all you got to do is go to your calculator and add up 9.7, 9.7, 4.5, 4.5, and that will give you your perimeter, which gives you 28.4. To find the area, go back up to your formula, and since we have a rectangle is also a parallelogram. So if you want to write in the word rectangle, as a reminder, we will be doing area equals base times height. So area is base times height. In this case, it would be the base is the bottom, which would be the 9.7, times, I'm running out of room here, the height, which is up and down. Put that in Desmos, and you should get 43.65. All right, so we're going to do it again for number two. First, we're going to start with the perimeter. The base is 10, and we have two of them. And this time, the side is going to be 4a plus 5. So I'm actually going to write that in here again. So we have 10 plus 10. So I paused and took a second to rewrite it because I ran out of room. It's important to combine like terms. So I'm going to underline my numbers without variables because they all are alike. So 10, 10, 5, and 5 gives us 30. And then I'm going to just circle my variables. I have 4a's plus 4a's, so altogether we have 8 A's, and we are done because we can't combine like terms any further. To find area, same formula as in number 1. However, we do have variables, as you can see, so we're going to do 10 times 4A plus 5. And to do that, we distribute. 10 times 4A becomes 40A, and 10 times 5 becomes a positive 50. We can't combine terms any further, so area of this rectangle is 40A plus 50. Moving on to example 3. Sometimes you'll be given the area, so make sure you read the problem. In this case, it says the area is 45 square feet. I would underline that. It's pretty important. And also underline the keyword so you know what we're trying to find. What is the width? So as you can see, the length is 9. And we don't know the width, but we do know that the area is 45. So when we don't know something in math, we give it a variable. In this case, I'll give it an x. And I know to find the area, it is width times length. Therefore, it'd be 9x times 45, and then we just have a one-step equation here. Do the opposite on both sides, and x equals 5. This equation gets written right up here, and your answer is in this blank. Number 4, the case this time is perimeter, and it says perimeter 60 feet. So again, I'd underline key terms, and this time we're trying to find the length. So perimeter, as we know, is to add up all the sides of a rectangle. So if this is 10 foot, then this is 10 foot. We don't know what the two lengths are on each side, but I do know they're equivalent because it's a rectangle. So I'm going to give a variable for our unknown. So if that's x, then this is also x. Now we can set up our equation. I'm actually going to write on the line this time. So we have 10 plus 10 plus x and x. And all we have to do in this situation is to combine like terms. So I'm going to add my numbers together. 10 and 10 is 20. And my variables are alike. I have 1x plus 1x, so I have plus 2x. And there's my answer. And as I paused the video, I went back and looked at what I underlined in the question, and it told me that the perimeter is 60 feet. So actually, I did not answer the question correctly. The equation is 20 plus 2x, and I'll rewrite it again, how I got that. By combining like terms, 10 and 10 equals 20. X and x does become 2x, but in the question it says perimeter is 60 feet. So I'm going to take 20 plus 2x equals 60. That's our equation. I just wrote it down at the bottom so that I would have room to solve. We take 20 to the other side. Left with 2x equals 40. And lastly, we would divide both sides by 2. X equals 40. So the length of the unknown side in this case is 40. Some more examples. Move on to the second page of your notes. Number 1 says a parallelogram has a 9 centimeter base. So I'm going to underline the 9. That's pretty important, and that's the base. And it has a height of 10 centimeters. It actually tells you to draw the parallelogram and find its area. So we're going to do that. The height is from top to bottom, and I'm going to underline that the height is 10 and plug that in there. And my base, the notes said before that base is on the bottom, so we're going to go ahead and label the base. And back up to our formula sheet on the other page said area is base times height. So we're going to do just that. 10 times 9. You get 90, and we're going to include the units, centimeters. All right, and that's all it asks us to find. Number 2, the parallelogram below has an area of 60 square units. Find the perimeter of the parallelogram. Okay, so we are going to label that the 5 is the height and the 8 is not our base. However, we can figure out the base by labeling the bottom B and setting up an equation. Since we know that the area is 60 and we know that the height is 5, but we don't know the base, we're going to give the base a variable x, and we know the height is 5. So now we just have a one-step equation. 5's cancel out. The base is 12. But I'm going to go back up to the question because it doesn't ask us to find the base, but we needed the base in order to find the perimeter. So perimeter is to add up all the sides. So if this side is 8, then this is also 8. So you have an 8 and an 8. And if the base is 12, I'm going to go ahead and label it, set it up right up top. And when we add all those together, you should get 40. And I'm going to circle my answer. Moving on to triangles now. Formula, we're going to go back up to our first note page and look and see that the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Let's write that in there. So we're going to look at the triangle and label what we know. We know that the base is the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and give that a B. We know that the height is up and down, so I'm going to go ahead and give that an H. So the area is 1/2 of the base, which in this case is 36, times the height, in this case is 12. When you put that in your calculator, you should get 216. They also want us to find the perimeter of this triangle. All the side lengths are given to us. So we have 26.8, 19, and 36. Add them all up, and you should get 81.8. Number 2, the area of the triangle is 24 inches. So let's underline important terms here. If the triangle has a height of 6 inches, find the base, then find the perimeter. Okay, so we're going to go back to our triangle formula and rewrite it, this area. Remember, they want us to find the base and then the perimeter. So we're going to plug in what we know. In this case, we know that the area is 24. So we're going to plug 24 in for A. 1/2 is always 1/2 in this equation. We don't know the base, but we do know the height. So we know the height, but we don't know the base. So we're going to solve for B. And if you combine like terms, 1/2 times 6 is 3. B, divide both sides by 3 to get B alone. 24 divided by 3 is 4. And in this case, it is inches. So units are important. Last example, the area of the triangle to the right is 114 square units. So let's underline again what's important. You're going to solve for x, then find the perimeter. So again, the equation, you go back to the 2 examples we did. Area is 1/2 base times height. So let's plug in what we know. We know that the area is 114. 1/2 is always 1/2. The base is the bottom. So as I was saying, the base is always the bottom, and in this case, it's 4x plus 5. And the height is always bottom to top, and in this case, it's 12. So we want to simplify this. This is distributive property, so I think it'd be most simple to multiply the 1/2 by the 12 first. 1/2 times 12 is 6, so we're left with 6 times 4x plus 5. Now you're going to distribute the 6 to everything in the parentheses. 6 times 4 is 24, it has an x with it, and 6 times 5 is 30. So our simplified answer is 144 equals 24x plus 30. So all we have to do now is solve for x, because that's what it has us do in the problem. So two-step equation, take 30 to the other side by subtracting.